Halim Shebaya is a political analyst. I talked to him earlier and asked him whether Lebanon will be able to distance itself from regional conflicts as Hariri had previously requested.
After meeting the speaker, Nabih Berri, in Beirut, he came out and said a sentence. He said, yes, we should think of distancing, na'ib al-nafs in Arabic, but he said we all should, and speaking of all Lebanese, all political parties, we should think of distancing ourselves from the regional issues. And in that, he kind of acknowledged, so to speak, that different parties in Lebanon have their kind of regional attachments, regional patrons, and obviously Hezbollah is one of these parties that is the clearest kind of violation on some issues of Lebanese sovereignty, being involved in regional battles without the explicit, consent of the Lebanese government. So in the coming days, it's going to be quite interesting to see, because Aoun said, and he gave himself 48 hours to tell the Lebanese public and to inform Hariri and others what shape the current negotiations is going to take. Basically, whether it's going to be a national dialogue table or if it's going to be intensive bilateral meetings. So we'll know that in 48 hours.
You mentioned Syria, of course, yesterday in Sochi. We saw Assad and Putin hugging. And we may be seeing a winding down of the Syrian civil war. And ISIS, of course, appears to be on its heels in the region. And there are some who are seeing a new phase of instability with Riyadh and Tehran competing for influence. Lebanon kind of caught in this web. You've already kind of alluded to that. How does Lebanon navigate this moving forward?
There are so many problems that are tied to regional issues. So, for example, the refugee situation is tied to the Syrian conflict, and so that's why, for example, there's a big question mark for those who want to now focus on just the Hezbollah's weapons. There's also, another priority, which is solving the Syria crisis, putting all the will and political will and efforts of the Arab League, for example, to get a good political solution in Syria to guarantee the safe and voluntary return of refugees. And the other issue is whether also Lebanon is going to hold the parliamentary elections next summer, elections that have been postponed now for 5 years. The elections should have been held in 2013.
One analyst described the crisis this way: in the first few days of Hariri's resignation, there was truly a fear of internal strife. However, the unity showed by the various political blocs over the priority for Hariri to return and the calm management of the crisis actually showed otherwise. Is that a fair assessment? And is that one of the takeaways from this incident, that actually instead of splitting apart, Lebanon went in an entirely different direction?
Yes, in fact, this was part of the irony of the situation, that the whole issue and the whole attack on Lebanon and the whole assault, what many Lebanese people saw as an assault on Lebanon's sovereignty, ended up with what I think and what I consider to be the strongest moment now for both President Aoun and President Hariri in their in what we call the presidential settlement. So for 1 year now, there's something we call the presidential settlement in Lebanon that saw Aoun become president and Hariri become prime minister. And I think now they're really at their strongest point, partly because there was a national unity portrayed that was really unexpected, even by those who, would have expected some level of patriotism to be expressed. But there was really also a wide consensus that President Aoun did a good job. Even those who do not necessarily like him or support him acknowledge that he managed the crisis very well. He showed a lot of solidarity, a lot of wisdom, a lot of patience in managing and de-escalating the situation and meeting with all parties, making sure everybody's on board. And then that led to a unified position from Lebanon with one demand: we want Hariri back. So yes, one of the takeaways is that Lebanon comes out with a display of national unity that has been unprecedented. We haven't seen anything like it for a couple of years now.
Halim, thanks so much for your time.